Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Notes to Self. My name is Melanie, and
I am Corey.
we're going to work on our intro, by
Yep.
the way. We don't have one down. If you don't know who we were both born and raised in the AUB. My dad is the current leader of the AUB. I grew up with 4 mothers, 34 children. I got married a week into 17 and had 3 babies before I was 23 years old. I left the AUB when I was 25.
And my dad had 9 wives and 39 children, and we all grew up in a compound up in Montana, also a part of the AUB. So,
Did you say 9 wives and 39 kids?
39 kids.
Okay, I missed you here. I missed you saying that. So we have been watching for the first time season 2 of Sister Wives. We're going to recap episodes 7 and 8 today. We have not seen any of these episodes. We've seen clips and stuff of some of these episodes, but we've never seen the full episode. So this one, we thought we could get through 3 episodes before we did another recap, but there is a lot to go over in some of these. So they start out this episode 7 and they're talking about Christmas is coming up. What are you smirking at already?
No, Christmas is coming up, and
I'm like, oh crap, did I forget something?
no, everybody's in a bad mood. So, or one
Or-
person's in a bad mood.
Yeah.
So.
And they're talking about the investigation that's coming up with the state of Utah, and they're talking about Christmas. They're going to take their kids. They're going to go on a Christmas like getaway up in the cabin up in the mountains of Utah. And so, I mean, we've got beautiful mountains here. There's a tons of places that you can take your family and go do this type of thing. We are watching the chaos ensue, like getting a family of this size in order to go do a trip like this is just insane. And it gives some like a slight bit of PTSD because when I grew up, we did always, my mom packed up every Christmas and we went to the other mother's house every year. And so, but we never packed up the entire family and went somewhere. And so there is so much logistics that you have to get to and be able to move that many people and have everything that you need to have. And you're just watching the complete chaos, especially when they get to the cabin and they're throwing everything inside the cabin. And I remember year after year losing so many of my items. And I hated taking Christmas, like going to Christmas, because we already got very minimal Christmas presents anyways. And then they got lost in the shuffle. And half the time you wouldn't bring half of your presents home.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
We never had that problem. Our Christmas happened in the big house, and that's where I lived. And so we never did travel anywhere. So when we got married, the very first year that we were married, or the second year.
It was actually even the 3rd year that we got married because our little girl was almost 1. So
we tried that, packed up all of our gifts and took our kids up to
the
Montana, the compound, and had the Christmas up there. And we swore we would never do it again.
And we only did that with 4 children.
Yeah.
So my older 3 children, and then our baby was about to be 1 together.
Yep.
And so she's born on the 28th of December. So her birthday is just right after Christmas. So we wanted to take her up there to celebrate her first birthday with our Montana family. And I just swore, and we would never do that again. It was so chaotic and so hard. One of the things though, does bring back a lot of nostalgia. Christmas, the holidays for the kids was always such an amazing event. Like it was the time where we could all get together and we had fun. And especially my dad's first wife left when we were like 3. And so I have a sister 4 months older than me. And sometimes they would get to come down here and have Christmas with us. And it was just always such a magical experience when you are the child of polygamy. Now, when you're an adult, there's so much to work on, so much to do. And I think I personally, we haven't discussed this, but this was kind of some of my thoughts. Tell me what you think. Is that Cody says it might be our last Christmas here in Utah. It's going to be our last Christmas here in Utah. And they're trying to integrate Robin into the family. So it's Robin's first Christmas with the Browns. And then it's their last Christmas in Utah. Well, we've already seen that Robin does not want to live at the big house. And so why would she want to celebrate the holidays at the big house either? And I'm not blaming them. I'm not blaming Robin for them going away to a cabin. I'm just saying it makes it a lot easier for her to not have to go step on other people's toes in their house,
Their space.
in their space for Christmas. And we'll get to a little bit more of that later on in this episode too, because Robin and some of the wives make some comments about the kitchen. And so I thought it was kind of interesting. Mary does all the holiday decor. And I've seen clips recently where, like Christine has even said, Mary does all the holiday decor. And then Robin got kind of snippy on one of the interviews recently, I think in season 19. And she's like, yeah, Mary quit that when my kids came into the family. And I'm like, did she quit it when your kids came into the family, or did she quit because they moved and they were no longer living in because it appears in this episode that Mary did decorate the Lehigh house. And so when they moved down to Vegas, why would she do that? Like, why would she pull all of her Christmas decor and decorate a rental, especially when no one is at her rental?
Or decorate Robin's house.
Oh yeah, why would? Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was kind of interesting that Robin seemed a little wounded about that on a recent interview that I saw, and yet, you know, I see the circumstances as to why Mary might have quit decorating. Another thing that they do is draw names. This is a very common thing in polygamy because there's just too many kids, and you can't as financially make that work. Logistically, like they said, you know, you can get 500 presents in one room. If you're talking 21 people, 3 presents a person, that's 70 gifts right there. And so we would do that ourselves, and you guys did that too, didn't you?
Yeah, we drew names too and had.
You guys did that all the way up until like just even a couple of years ago.
Yep.
I think your family still did that, but you would do family gifts instead.
We would do our family gifts.
Yeah, so they switched from individuals to families. So I thought that was something to point out. Now I know a lot of regular non-polygamous families do this too, but that's to go on top of your regular Christmas presents. In polygamy, at least in my family's experience, that was your main gift. Whatever your sibling got you was your main gift. And so I just thought it was really sweet. Again, I'm seeing why everybody loves these brown kids. They are amazing because they really do put some love and thought into these. And you can see these little kids coming up and hugging on the big brothers and thank you so much for my gift. Like there's just genuine love and appreciation there. You see Aurora run up to Logan and hug Logan for her gift.
Yeah. Well, and you can tell those kids are loving to the new kids coming in. They are kind. Yes, you've seen some of them where they're arguing, but for the most part, this is a very inclusive family that have brought them in. So I'm so surprised that her kids, especially if they've watched this back season, how can they sit there and say
they weren't accepted?
They weren't accepted. They were absolutely accepted and loved by this family. So,
yeah, I hope her kids now that they're older, we'll go back and watch some of these episodes where you can see the genuine love and affection between all of the kids. One of the things we talked about too, before we realized exactly who it was, the Christmas tree lot that they went to get their Christmas tree. It's a huge lot here in Salt Lake that it's actually was right next to my mom's house for years until my mom recently moved. And it's one of those lots where a bunch of brothers come down from Alaska. And they create this magical, like little wonderland. It is the cutest thing. And we loved taking our kids there when they were little. It's a very popular place. And the brothers, oh my gosh, they are just, I mean, you can see the girls talking about flirting with him, and it was harmless flirting because of how innocent it was.
Yeah. Well, and then he used to sell crab legs for,
oh my gosh,
$100 for a large box of crab legs.
How many pounds was it? It was like 50 pounds. I want to say it was 50 pounds. No, they were big crab legs, and so he'd sell them for $100. Last time we swung by there, they were like $400. They changed it.
Like, all right, we can't.
Well, the first year that we went and got the crab legs from them, it was the first year they'd ever brought. It was the first year they'd ever started. And so he was like, well, we brought down all these boxes of crab legs. Do you think anyone in Utah would be interested? And we're like, absolutely. We'll take some. How much you asking? And he's like, I don't know, $100. And he didn't know the price. And so we were like, done. And my brother took some and we took some, and we were like, why didn't we grab more of that? Because we went back. And now they're I want to say last year they were $600 for the same box we paid $100 for. But yeah, they've grown in, definitely grown in recognition around the city because everyone goes there now. And it's
Yeah.
actually pretty far away from the Browns' house. I would say it's probably 30 minutes from their house.
Yeah.
There's a million other Christmas tree lots. So I thought it was interesting they chose that one.
Well,
Go ahead.
No, the interesting thing too is growing up where we grew up, there was no tree farms.
Yeah,
like
Corey's
that.
like
Yeah,
Christmas tree lots?
farms,
What the
you
hell are
go
you
buy
talking
it-
about? That's
buy it from there.
Mountain.
Yeah, we did the old Christmas vacation type tree hunting. We'd go out into the woods, trudge, all of us freezing, go out there, find the perfect tree, and then cut it down and bring it back home up there in Montana. So that was one of our tradition, is going out and finding the tree. All of us older boys got to go bring that tree down and bring it home for
And
the
they always
family.
get the cutest Charlie Brown trees. It's funny.
Mhm.
And they still do that up there, actually. Now your little sister does it for
Yeah.
your mom every year.
And I think we bought a tree from that farm the first year, and then we've now changed our tradition. We have a fake tree, so that we love. It's
Yeah.
an amazing tree.
That was your idea, by the way.
It was, because
So-
the cleanup was
So much easier.
so much easier. So.
But one of the things I wanted to point out about the wives casually flirting with the tree lot salesman, because first of all, they are very cute. This particular family of brothers that comes down here, they're adorable. But I find it interesting because these girls can joke and laugh about this. Oh, we're harmlessly flirting. Do you have any mistletoe? No, I have the kissing balls. He talks about, like, there's this cute little banter going between Christine and Mary and this cute kid, right? And so what's interesting I found about that is that had those roles have been reversed, and that was Cody, and it was some cute little girl doing that, which I'm sure this has happened a dozen times because Cody is a master at flirting with people. It would have been frowned upon so much differently. And I think this goes back to what we talked about a few weeks ago when you were saying that because the men are always in dating mode. And the women are not. The women,
they feel like, okay, we're
right.
safe. We can do this, but we can flirt. We can do that because we're not even interested in dating. And so it's a safer environment. So.
It's true. It's so true. But had those roles have been reversed, maybe the women might not have found Cody's behavior as funny. But I just wanted to point out that sometimes there can be that little bit, it seems hypocritical to some degree, but at the same time, these women are not in constant dating mode all the time. Not every single guy out there is a potential partner, where in polygamy, every woman out there is a potential partner, whether she's already married or not.
Yep.
That she's a potential partner. And so I just thought that was kind of interesting. So one of the things too, let's see. Sorry, there we go. I thought that I'll go back to what I was saying just a second ago. Cody said that the reason why they wanted to go up to this cabin was they were going to try to mesh traditions. And so this is one of the reasons I was saying just a brief moment ago that they didn't want to have it at the big house because Robin didn't have a place at the big house. She didn't fit in right there. She didn't even want to. Obviously, she didn't want to move into the big house. And so they go to this cabin so that everyone feels like they're on equal territory. So I thought that was kind of an interesting statement when he said that, because he's willing to uproot 3 wives and 13 other children to accommodate Robin's feelings in the fact that she doesn't feel blended. Now, this is part of the polygamous lifestyle, is to make sure that everyone feels included and inclusive. And so I'm grateful. I'm happy to see that he would worry about Robin's feelings like that, but I also thought it was interesting. And so many of you guys have been saying in our comments that TLC pays for a lot of this stuff. Yeah. So had this not have been a TLC paid event, they would not be renting this cabin. This is just way too out of a price range for any family to do. Now, we got to go snowmobiling when we were younger because my dad rented snowmobiles out. He started a rental company and we were able to have a lot of these things that other families didn't have. We just didn't get to use them. The favorite wife and her kids got to use them. So we got to use them ever so often. But go ahead.
And we lived in this one winter wonderland. That was what you see there. That's how we lived. So that's how it took us to get home. Everybody had to have a 4-wheel drive chained up to be able to get in and out of the community because the snow would
because
pack
they're
up
literally
like that. We're on a mountain up in the Bitterroot Valley, right on the Idaho border. So yeah, it's tons of snow like that. So I was like, oh, that's the way we live. So that's what our ice blocking looked like, sledding and things like that. So
2 episodes ago.
growing up,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's funny to listen to Christine and Cody banter because Christine just doesn't put up with a lot of stuff from Cody when he's like, I don't know where Christine is. or Janelle, I don't know where Mary is. And she's like, oh, let me think. Let me read their minds. And so she starts getting super sarcastic with Cody. And he's like, can you not do that right now?
Well, I'm not. Yeah. He said, I'm not too happy with you right now.
Yeah, he goes, I don't like you very much right now. And she's like, oh, I'm not going to take that personally.
I won't take that personally.
And so I really love how aware Christine is about a lot of things, and how she'll call Cody to the carpet right then and there, because that is not always very common. So the difference between Christine and Robin, I feel like when I'm watching this, is that Christine does it in a fun, playful way where she's just like, oh yeah, that's not going to happen. Or, oh yeah, I'm not going to take that personally. Where Janelle would not call Cody out like that, not in front of everybody. She's not going to make a scene. And I think if Mary tried to do it, it might get confrontational between her and Cody. And Robin's just going to remind Cody of what he's supposed to be doing in the first place. And so she's going to do it in kind of as a motherly, almost disciplinary. Hey, do you remember what you're supposed,
the leader of the family would treat all of his wives with kindness and respect,
wouldn't they? Don't you think they'd do
Isn't that how a leader of a family,
right?
A priesthood holder treats his family? Yeah. But you're not treating the mother of your children and the queen and priestess of your world with very much respect, as you should be as a priesthood holder.
So I just thought that banter was really funny. And I wanted to point it out because that is how Christine, I've read some recent articles that people thought she was I think Christine's more malicious than people give her credit to be. They're tired of the narrative that Robin's only the bad one. And, so they're talking about different, I don't think Robin's the bad one. She just knows how to get what she wants. And she knows how to make Cody feel like it's his idea to get what she wants. Where I don't think Christine is purposely manipulative. She just has fun banter back and forth. And then Cody's just talking about how being the leader of his family and the stress that can come along with leadership. And I mean, absolutely I don't know what man in his right mind, any human in their right mind says, oh, let's go get 3 wives and 13 children and think that there's not going to be stress or think that there's not going to be hard moments that he's going to have to make these decisions on. Yeah. So that's where I thought that was kind of funny. He does tend to get stressed. When he gets stressed, he gets mean. I think he gets mean. I think he gets snippy, and I think he gets mean. And where Mary might take that personally and get mean back, Christine just laughs at him. Go ahead.
Well, I think once the stress comes out, it's not his true frustrated nature kind of comes out too. So that's when he gets frustrated, there's a few times where he's like he'll snap or he'll say something to the kids and they're looking at the camera like, oh shoot, we're being filmed.
Yeah.
And so I think this is one of those, oh, I should look kinder, or because he's definitely putting on a show based on what might be going on behind the scenes of more disciplinary, more patriarchal, more things like that he
authoritarian.
He's doing that behind the scenes, but then in the camera he's trying to make it look a little bit better. So I'm more authoritarian when I'm on the camera. Behind the scenes I'm a nice chill guy.
Okay. So one of the things that I thought was interesting is like, can the Browns go anywhere or do anything without, and I know a lot of the drama is made for TV. I get that. But I just find it interesting, like, oh, we can't get the cars up the hill. Why? Because it took us all day to get up here. And now we got to haul 15 loads back and forth on a Suburban. I remember those, like, it just feels like nothing in polygamy ever seems to come easily. It's just always one event after another, and it just gets frustrating. But the flip side about that is that there's always a lot of hands to help. And so you'll see, I was actually kind of surprised to see how often the teenagers were lounging around, because That was not my life in any way. If you sat down for 1 second, a parent gave you something to do. And so it's kind of surprised in this episode to see the teenagers,
it's awesome to see them
chilling
relax,
as much as they were.
being more teenagers. So.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of awesome. And so one of the things, and then at the end of episode 7, so we're already at the end of episode 7, they talk about they have to move, and that they've let the older children know that they're going to be moving. And you can see the heaviness on those kids. And maybe that's why they were lounging around a little bit more, is because the parents were trying to make it as easy on the kids as possible, because they knew that this like dreaded move was going to be coming up. And that move. Ugh,
yeah.
We have a lot about that.
There's something going on in the background that we're not seeing. A lot of the conversations that they've had with the kids and that he's having with the 2 wives that aren't, well, the other wives are, I don't know. I just see that there's some tension, some questions on why are we moving. If the state of Utah decides to prosecute him, whether you're in Texas
or Vegas,
you're in Vegas, where you'll be extradited back up here. They've done it to many priesthood holders who have been in other states, but committed crimes here in Utah, where those crimes are extradited back up here too. So why move? Why not sit here and fight the charges against you within a community who are there to support you?
Okay, so clearly we are already jumped into episode 8.
Yes.
So episode 8 is they start with the investigation, and we've talked about, why we thought the investigation. I did have a couple of the Browns reach out to me about their opinions about their investigation, which I'm not going to really go into too much here, because I'm just going to give you what we think about it. But the teenagers, I thought it was really sad to me watching the emotions of the teenagers was really hard. And mostly because, when I was 16, there was no conversation about this, no nothing. I went out of town with some friends, came back on my 16th birthday and was told we're moving. Well, the day before my 16th birthday, and was told we were moving. There was no discussion, no anything. And so this can be really devastating time of these kids' lives. So they're going through some major transitions. You've got a new mom coming into the family after 16 years of not having a new mom. Now we're taking you out of the private school and we're putting you in a public school. Okay, great. Now you're a plug kid trying to adjust to private school. Now you've adjusted to public school. Sorry. You've adjusted to public school. Hunter.
Made friends.
Yeah. Hunter's on the football team. I'm sure that they were terrified and scared of what public school could bring them. And so now, just kidding, now we're going to move you out of state. Like, how much more can this family dump onto these children without, just so that they can be public, so that they can, and I get why they were their main goal in doing this. I understand why they thought that it was such a good idea. But even in this episode, Christine is constantly questioning over and over and over, why are we doing this? Why is this happening? So one of the things, go ahead.
Oh, she's making an intelligent conversation with them. We should not be reacting out of fear.
Right.
That's something that you have to learn, because most of the decisions when you're growing up in a community like this, most of the decisions, most of the things that happen are fear-based. Somebody comes in, gets you scared to do something, and then we're doing this. And as a kid growing up, and I'm sure it's that way out in the real world too, but as a kid growing up there were so many decisions that we just didn't get to be a part of. This is happening, and we had to just learn how to roll with the punches. That's probably why we're looking for stability as we get out of cults like this. So.
Right. And I did numerous videos about fear-based decision making. Mm-hmm. And we talk about this a lot because this is how the number one thing that we were raised is almost every decision I watched my parents make was based on fear. Every decision that I watched most of my family make was based on fear. And it was something that I wanted to shift with my children. And so, but that's hard to make that shift when you're uprooting these children's lives and everything they know is based on fear. And they're watching their parents make these fear-based decisions. Now, one of the things too, so we are still at the cabin. One of the things I really wanted to point out was these kind of family get-togethers were a lot of fun. I really did enjoy that. I missed that kind of stuff when we were kids, because there was, they're going sledding and Mary jumps in, and I loved it as a teenager when my mom would jump in and participate, because the parents quite often didn't actively participate in things. And so when they did, it made it so much more fun and enjoyable. And, my dad did sometimes, but Cody's definitely a more hands-on dad. You can see him actively trying to participate with his kids. And so I feel like when at the beginning of the episodes, when they were saying, Cody's very hands-on, I feel like you can see a lot of that. And, we've only watched season 19, so we only know from here to season 19, and it feels like he still is very active and hands-on, but now he's just selective of who he's active and hands-on with. Where in these episodes, it just seems like it's his family. The whole family is welcomed.
Yeah, he's still trying to keep them all together. He's loving on all of the kids. In fact, some of this, now having watched later episodes, seeing the way, is it Garrison
that passed?
No, who's the one that he was hugging in the? See, I have Gabe. To learn their names. Gabe.
So Gabe was on his lap hugging him,
giving him a hug, and the heartbreak as he's having conversations as an older kid. That's what he's remembering. He remembers a loving, kind dad. So that breaks my heart. So
that is definitely one of the things that I feel like you're seeing that's different with Cody in the earlier seasons, is just like, yes, there's a lot of chaos, and sometimes he can snap at the kids a lot more, but he's a lot more hands-on with all of the kids.
Yeah. The kids seem to, in some areas, be more important to him than necessarily where you're seeing the shift that now Robin and Robin's kids are the most important. So, and that's the saddest part about it. He's letting that division get into all of his family. So,
yep. So I think the couch interviews on this one have by far been the most interesting couch interviews. I mean, right up there in the top. One of the things I thought that was so funny and interesting is they're all talking about the kitchen in the cabin, and how Robin's like, well, I should have just asserted myself more. And Christine's like, yeah, you should have, because you were welcomed in the kitchen as much as anyone else. And, Christine's like, I just like to cook for a lot of people, but I'm sure she would like the help too. I'm sure that it's not just, oh, here, leave me to do everything. And so I thought that was interesting. I'm only speculating. I can imagine the conversations before the cabin event happened. I don't want to come to the big house because I don't have a place where I belong. I don't have a kitchen. And a kitchen in polygamy is one of the biggest things for a plural wife to have her autonomy with. And so, I mean, you've heard us talk about this before, bags of flowers going to other wives' heads. And I know so many of you guys have commented on that.
Well, an organization of the kitchen too, putting stuff back. Each wife has a different way that they run and organize a kitchen. So when they're all sharing the same kitchen, it's interesting to see how they had, in our family, all came together to agree on how the kitchen was to be organized, and so where everything went.
Right. And that is, especially when in this culture, and, even 50 years ago, that was unfortunately a woman's primary place of business. That's where she operated from the majority of the time. And in plural families, this is still the case. This is where the woman spends a good majority of her time. It should be organized the way she wants it to be. It should run efficiently the way she wants it to run. And so that's why these are such important conversations. Every time a conversation with any plural wife, I don't care if it's on Sister Wives or even in real life, I hear somebody bring up a kitchen conversation, I immediately stop and listen, because this will tell you so much about people's personalities. It will tell you so much about who they are. Are they controlling? Are they dictating? Are they a pushover? What kind of person that they are? So this conversation about the kitchen was so fascinating to me, because here the whole point in going to the cabin is to merge these families and blend these families. So Robin feels comfortable coming into the family, and yet she still doesn't go in the kitchen and help. She still doesn't, and she should have asserted herself more.
Well, and one of Cody's dreams to see all of his wives in the kitchen knocking hips is what he used. So that
Bumping
was
hips together.
bumping
Yeah.
hips. So yeah, I'm like, all right, that's
I've heard those kind of statements from my dad too. Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Like, there's nothing better, because when you're a plural husband, you get all of the, she's not doing this right, she's not doing that right, she's not, and you get all the complaints. So when you have those very few and in between moments where they're getting along and they're in the kitchen and they're joking and they're bantering and they're laughing, those are important moments where you're just like, oh, okay, maybe life doesn't suck all the time. Maybe things aren't hard all the time. Maybe my wives can get along sometimes. So that's why I think it's so funny. But then the conversation. So you see, yeah. So then you see Robin go, maybe I should have asserted myself. And Christine talks to her almost like she's a child. Yeah. Maybe you should have asserted yourself more, because I would have welcomed you in. And you kind of see Robin get super frumpy, and even Mary kind of looks up a little bit like, oh, okay. But then the conversation goes even a little bit farther. Oh, is this what you're with Janelle?
With Janelle
and
spilling
Janelle's
the tea.
like,
She's spilling tea that's probably not.
I know.
So they're all like,
we both paused like, what? We watched this
big
conversation 3 times.
Yep.
Because Janelle is like, well, I'm not as domesticated as these other girls are, so I don't do a lot in the kitchen. I'll be out there helping with the kids or do something like that. And Christine's like, that's not true. You're so domesticated. And Janelle's like, well, I'm not. And so I don't spend as, and so at the beginning, I was called lazy a lot in the early years. And it's like, okay, it was you and Mary. So who called you lazy? It was Mary, obviously, who called you lazy. And so Janelle still has wounded feelings about that. And what's funny is, to me, is if you watch Mary's body language in this conversation, she'll sit up. Like, Mary is quite often, I've noticed in a lot of these conversations, she'll just kind of maybe disassociate and sit back a little bit, but all of a sudden she sits up in almost like a defense, like, it's okay, I'm going to defend myself, I'm going to say what's my piece. And I could be totally reading this wrong. This is just my experience in looking at body language, and which I'm not saying I'm a body language expert by any means, but
there's friction.
There's friction there.
Growing up in polygamy as a kid, I think that we figured out body language pretty early, because you knew
between these women.
Yeah, when somebody's body language changed, you're like, oh, I need to get out of here.
Run.
Somebody's getting beat.
Yeah, right. So I just thought that was really funny, because even Cody kind of was sitting there, they'll sometimes, and I do it too. I notice that when Corey and I are talking, he'll be talking and I'll kind of be looking down or looking up, and I'm thinking or whatever. And so I noticed Cody's kind of looking down, and Janelle says this, and Cody goes, what? Looks at her like, oh, we're not doing this on camera.
Bringing that up?
No. We've already had these conversations. We don't talk shit on camera.
Yeah.
We're only just talking about the good stuff, right? And so I thought that was so, that part was so hilarious, because so when something like that comes up, we will watch it, listen to the conversation, rewind and watch one person's body language, rewind and watch the next person, rewind, and so that we get the full picture.
So we can see how each one of them reacted to that conversation, to see where they're, how they're what they're thinking and how they're reacting to what the other person is saying. It's awesome to see that.
Yep.
So, that's going to be a conversation later on.
That's going to sting.
Yep.
That's going to be Cody. So here's what I can see happening. Something like that gets brought up, and then the wife who felt attacked, in this case could have been Mary, goes to Cody and says, I thought we weren't going to do this on camera, blah, blah, blah. Now Cody's got to go to Janelle and say, Janelle, we talked about this. We're not going to do this on camera, blah, blah, blah. So they're not this is where I'm saying, I don't feel like they purposely intended to mislead, but sometimes they purposely intended to mislead.
Yeah,
this might be one of those situations.
They're trying to show the
cohesiveness
and the awesome parts, what they feel like is the awesome parts of polygamy and why it shouldn't be prosecuted. And so, but all the other stuff they're trying to mute a little bit, I guess, keep keep those conversations for the privacy of family home evenings and things like that.
Right. So this is what I find so interesting about the family taking Christmas, because now A, you're going to take a high stress holiday.
Mm-hmm.
B, you're going to take a brand new family that's trying to mesh together and put them and C, you're going to go on a vacation that requires so much extra effort and so much extra stress. You had these three major factors and people's shit's going to come out. There's just no way to hide that.
In a cabin that didn't seem like that it was big enough for all those
Yes.
people,
Okay. There's the fourth thing. In a cabin that there's not space for everyone to go. Yep. This is where you're really going to start to see some of the dynamics of the family, because if they're just all together at the big house in Lehigh, someone can retreat to their bedroom. Someone can retreat to their own little space. In this cabin, they can't. There's not a lot of space. Everyone's there together. I'm willing to bet there was a ton of fireworks that went on that we didn't get to see on camera. So one of the other things I thought that was so interesting is Christmas morning, they're opening presents. Go ahead.
No.
Before I move.
No.
Okay. They're opening presents, and Robin gives Mary these dancing sisters, and she's over there taking pictures, like to the side, taking pictures because she wants to capture Mary's. Robin, I feel like, wants to give these gifts that have so much meaning and so much love. And that's amazing. I love that she loves to do that. But she also loves to capture the fact that you appreciated her gift so much. So I thought that was very funny to watch these two, because I understand that love that you want to have towards a sister wife as well. I understand that. And so I understand the sweet tenderness between the two of them. But in a way, the way that they did it is so cliquish and so unfair to Christine and Janelle, who are sitting over there like chopped liver. Like, oh, you two have this close friendship and this close bond. And we're over here taking care of the other, because between the two of them, they've got 4 children and Christine and Janelle have 12. So there's so much more that Christine and Janelle have to do than Robin and Mary have to do. And so I just thought that was kind of in poor taste. I felt like if she really wanted to give Mary something that emotional and that significant to her about their bonds together, she probably should have done that in private instead of in a family situation where all the other wives could get hurt.
Like they do with the conversations about moving. They probably did that in private, and then they're hitting the other wives up
in public.
Well, it seemed more along the lines of Robin coaxing or Cody to convince the other wives that we should move. So tell them why we should move. Tell them what the whole reason behind it. And so it's like that was a private conversation, and now she's, remember what I told you to tell them? So to get them to move. Sorry, this is just me being facetious.
You're jumping like 3 steps ahead, babe.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're totally good. But they're on the couch right after Mary gives, they're doing the couch interview right after Robin gives Mary this like really special tender moment between the two of them. And Cody says to all the wives, is there ever a time where you feel closer to a sister wife than you do to me? And all of them unanimously say no, because that's like comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah. Well, and I found it interesting too, because Cody threw a little bit of a temper tantrum. And so this goes along the same line where they're all saying to him, oh, no, we've had the closest connection with you. And I found it interesting that when he had his tantrum at the beginning, that all of the girls basically covered for him, backed him up. Well, he's doing this, or he's got a lot of stress here.
Excused his bad behavior.
Excused his bad behavior. His little tantrum that he threw there, including Christine, kind of excused.
Well, I'm not going to take that personally.
I'm not taking it personally, and he is under a lot of stress and blah, 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 blah. So.
Right. No, I totally agree. So I just thought that was interesting because I've never known sister wives to be closer to each other than they are to their husband. And there's already so much space between the husband and the wife, because how can he truly have that intimate of a relationship with someone when he only sees them every 4 days, or he only sees them and so that should tell the audience something huge, that they don't have as
Yep.
tight of a relationship with each other as they do with him. And they don't even have that type of a relationship with him because they only see him every 4 days. So that should tell you just the space, the emotional space between sister wives. They're really not that close. They're not that tight together. What the Browns showed you on television was a farce to some degree. It was the idealistic way that they hoped polygamy would be, but it's not the realistic way that it is most of the time.
It's the fairy tale version that they're giving instead of the functioning version.
Right.
So they're covering up a lot of the functions of polygamy, the rules.
Right. So that was just part of an interesting part of the couch scene that I didn't want to pass up. Now we can jump to that part that you were saying. Because then they're talking about the gifts that they gave each other at Christmas, right? And Christine says, and obviously you can see some TLC money must be coming in too, because she gets McKelty a phone. So she's talking about that. And then Christine makes the comment, in case we move. And Cody puts his arm around her like this. And he's like, are you confused? The way he talks to her, I literally could have thrown something at the television at this moment. Because I was like, you POS.
Yeah, I would have never talked to you that way.
No, you wouldn't have.
Got a black eye.
No, you wouldn't have. I wouldn't have tolerated that kind of, because the way he puts his arm around,
respect, not out of.
No, I'm not a bully.
Out of fear, just out of respect. I would have never.
Okay, but now that you have to clear that up, people are going to be like, "Oh, Corey's afraid of Mel."
I know. I was waiting for that black eye to show up so I could look abused.
Here we go. But I just thought it was I just thought it was so disrespectful the way he put his arm around her, and then he says, "Are you confused about us moving or not? Do you think that there's a chance we're not moving?" And she says, "Yes." And he's looking at her like, "What are you? You know?" And so she goes, "Yes," and he goes, "Well, we are moving." And Robin jumps in, and I'm thinking, who is this chick? Like, she's barely she's been in the family for 30 seconds compared to how long other girls have been in the family.
9 months.
Okay, well, I know, but in
TLC time.
Yeah. And she's like, she has a choice just like the rest of us. No, she doesn't. At this particular point, she doesn't have a choice. If she doesn't go with Cody, she's basically separated herself from and her children from their siblings. There's no way. And so this is, we've been talking about this the last few days. In this lifestyle, you will make one choice, one compromise, because you think it's for the betterment of whatever. You justify it. And then that leads to the next compromise and the next compromise. And then you find yourself in a place that you don't know how you got there. And it was one compromised decision after the next. And so then you feel like you've now put yourself in this decision where you don't have a choice because you've already made all these compromising choices. And so now no one else made these decisions for you except for you. So now you have to live with the consequences. Christine did not have a choice to not move to Vegas at this point.
No. If she had chosen to not move, she would have probably stayed in the home.
Right.
Had to be in charge of financially taking care of herself, and the kids would have probably been separated. And so, there's the illusion of choice. So they talk to the kids too. And one of the kids said that if we move, we stay together. If we stay here, we will be separated. That was the choice that they thought they had. And of course, they don't want to be separated. They want to stay together as a family. They've been growing this for 17 years as a family, all living in the same home to have to be able to. And that's the most interesting point of all of this, because once they leave Utah and go to Vegas, ultimately they're separated.
They ultimately never come back together.
Never do. They're all in the same different houses from that point forward. So even that was a lie, that if they move, they stay together. If they stay, they'll be separated. It's exactly the opposite of what
they're being promised if they move.
Promised and told. So
well, and one of the things too I wanted to point out is
which isn't a bad thing,
right? But they're here. They are talking, and Cody's talking to Christine. No, we are moving, And then he says, he didn't want to move either, but he has to be the stoic leader for the family. And she's like, wait, you don't want to move? And you see Robin's head shaking. No, he doesn't want to move. Why does Robin know that Cody doesn't want to move, but Christine and Janelle do not know that Cody doesn't want to move? And so then a couple sentences later, Christine's like, wait, I'm so confused. You're so excited about moving. You don't want to move. And Cody's like, no, now you've got Mary and Robin shaking their heads. No, he doesn't want to move. But now you've got Janelle and Christine like, we're so confused. Wait a second. And so why is it that in a family that's supposed to make these decisions together, that Janelle and Christine have no idea how Cody feels about this. And yet Mary and Robin are both shaking their head. No, he doesn't want to move. No, he doesn't want to move. And I just thought that was extremely telling about who he has his conversations with and who he makes his real decisions with. Yeah. And that's why we've joked in the past and said he had to go back to Robin to get what his real opinion was, because we see this all too often. My dad would give my mom an opinion on something and she'd be like, okay, great. This is what we're going to do. Then he'd go talk to his favorite wife and he'd get his real opinion. And then he'd come back to my mom and he'd say, that's not what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do now. I've made a different choice. When he didn't make the choice, she made the choice and made him take the blame for it. And so I just think that part of the couch scene, we literally watched that couch scene 5 or 6 times too, because the body, I mean, you can just see Janelle. Janelle is not, this is where I really struggle with a lot of these kind of lifestyles, because Janelle's not going to be confrontational with Cody for Janelle, any slight little confrontation is confrontational. So she's not going to push back on Cody at all. But Christine is sitting here pushing back on Cody going, I don't want to move. I don't want to move my children. They don't want to move. We don't want this to happen. But Janelle's just going to make her kids do whatever Cody says because she's not going to give him any pushback. And she is especially not going to give him pushback on camera. Then you've got Mary going, she's just going to stay quiet and just stay out of it. And then you've got Robin telling Cody exactly how you need to handle this. Cody, you need to explain to her why we need to move. You need to explain to her why she gets a choice. And so now you have Robin in there dictating Cody on how to have a conversation with his wife.
To win him over.
To make sure that they're compliant with what he wants them to do. And I'm thinking the dynamics between these 5 people is absurd. But this is exactly what I've seen in dozens of polygamous families. This is exactly what I've seen in my own polygamous family.
Well, and the interesting part too on this is where you pointed out that Robin sits back and almost because they're like, we're uprooting our children. We're sending them to taking them out of this school that they've been in. They're taking them away from their friends. And she almost, mind reading,
was a little gleeful
that, hey, I just did this with my kids, you guys can handle it too.
Oh, your kids will be fine. My kids just had to move
and do it. So yeah, there's that just smug.
Well, and for Robin, there is no, she doesn't seem distraught in any way that they have to move at all. And and we've known from day one that Robin's family lived in Vegas. And so of course they would choose Vegas. She's going to have a support system now, but the other 3 wives are not going to have any sort of support system down there because their whole families live up here in Salt Lake. And so there's, obviously Robin's not distraught about moving at all. And Mary's not distraught really as much. Allegedly. It doesn't seem
Allegedly.
Well, from her, from what it appears, Mary doesn't seem that distraught. Obviously her child is pretty distraught about having to move. But these older kids only have a few more years left in school and then they're out. And so it's really hard to watch these different dynamics because I always told myself I had a choice. I always believed I had a choice, but I really, truly did not have a choice. Christine, these women truly do not have a choice. If they want to follow their husband and they've agreed to follow their husband in their marriage commitments and their marriage vows, they've agreed to follow the priesthood holder. And this is what he's telling them that they need to do. And so it really is one compromise. I wouldn't say that it's choice. No. I would say it's a compromised decision after another, after another, after another.
It's the illusion of free agency.
Right.
And that's what we grew up with, was the illusion that we had free agency to choose.
Right.
And we did not. So
Right. And another thing, we've pointed this out in other videos before, but no one in the state of Utah has been prosecuted for polygamy for years, for quite for some time. The odds of the Browns actually being prosecuted for polygamy were very, very slim. But the fact that they are on a national television program trying to get paid for something that is illegal nationally, they're trying to get paid off of something that is illegal in the Utah Constitution.
mm-hmm.
Polygamy is illegal. And they are out there flaunting this on a life. And yes, he said, we weren't doing this to throw it in the face of the state of Utah, but no one's been prosecuted for polygamy. The odds of them actually ever being prosecuted to this are pretty much nothing. And so it makes me wonder what the move was really all about. Why did they really need to move? Why did they really need to traumatize their children under these circumstances? And again, this is where, at the end of this episode, when Hunter is sobbing because he has to leave, I couldn't help but cry. And I don't ever cry in movies.
Yep.
And I'm over here like all emotional because these kids, they really uprooted and traumatized these children's lives. Why? So that they could continue to get paid for a program that was illegal for their lifestyle. And that's why I think that they wanted to move. A good portion of why they wanted to move is because they still wanted to continue to do the show. And the state of Utah cannot allow, it's literally in the state constitution that polygamy will never be legal in the state of Utah.
Bigamy.
No, polygamy. It says polygamy in the Utah. We could look it up.
I thought it was bigamy that they were being prosecuted
No,
against.
polygamy is too.
But
and
I
so
thought
they decriminalized it, but they've never made it legal.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So they won't be prosecuted for it, but it's not
Still
legal.
Not legal.
Yeah.
And I thought the whole goal for them to come out and to show the lifestyle was to show that the lifestyle shouldn't be criminalized, if you will. And so then they get their first pushback, I guess, a little bit.
And they run?
And they go down, because if that's where I said at the beginning, if the state of Utah had wanted to prosecute them, they would have come back. They would have. So I don't understand.
Pulled them back to Utah.
Yeah, I don't understand the whole reason for the move. That's personal reasons that they have. I don't.
Right,
understand.
And maybe we'll
speculate.
Maybe we'll see more as
we go on.
We see more episodes, but we're only on episode. What is this? 8 or 9? Episode 8. And so I think it's interesting to watch Christine push back and call Cody out on these things, because Janelle is not going to call Cody out on these things. But Christine is not, she doesn't want to leave. They're leaving their community. They are literally taking what they are trying to show the world is a functioning plural family. And they're going to move to Vegas and live plural monogamy. They're not no longer going to be a plural family. They're going to move to Vegas and be plural monogamous. And that's not what their goal was. At least that's not what they said their goal was at the beginning of this show. So I'm really disheartened to see their choice in abandoning ship, if you will. And there's a lot more public polygamists out there in the state of Utah that work with the legislatures and the state lawmakers than the Browns were. And so the Browns were just trying to get paid for it on a national television program where these other families aren't. They were just trying to change some of the laws so that they could decriminalize this kind of activity. And like I said, no one wants polygamy to be legal. I don't want polygamy to be legal, but to decriminalize it so that these families feel that they have more rights to be able to come forward when abuses happen. That's the goal, I think, for a lot of families.
To be honest with you, I think what they were trying to accomplish, they actually did accomplish, because with it decriminalized, look at how their family was actually able to go out in the world and truly come up with a choice whether they were going to live this lifestyle.
It's true.
And they grew up in it. They saw how difficult it was. I'm curious how many of his children would embrace that lifestyle.
Well, we know as of today, none.
So that is awesome that because of what they did, those kids were able. So it's probably a blessing in disguise for the kids that they were able to get away from the close-knit community, it eventually did become decriminalized.
Right.
And those kids truly got to choose which route they wanted to go. And
they didn't have to make a compromising decision
Yep.
after another, you know, and if I would have had those options, I probably wouldn't have gotten married 8 days into 17.
Yep.
I wouldn't have had a baby 9 months later. I wouldn't have had the next one at 19. It's one compromising decision after another, and you think you're making it at choice. And then the guilt and the shame that's associated. Well, you're the one who made that decision. Well, you're the one who did this. You're the one who did this. So did Christine truly have uninhibited choice? She did not.
Nope.
There's no way that she did.
And she's pointing out, which I think she could have been stronger on, but pointing out, are you making a decision based out of fear?
Right.
And because that is a trademark.
When he's trying to convince her that he's not. No, I'm not making this out of fear. No, we want to move. Okay, wait. So you're happy to move? Okay, why are you? You know what I mean? So we're obviously seeing that the pieces aren't making sense to Christine, and as Christine calls him out in front of the other wives, you start seeing the wheels in Janelle's head start turning too, because they've probably not had personal conversations about this. They've only had conversations about this with Cody.
Yep.
And so now Janelle's in the back of her mind going, okay, wait, do we really have to do this? Is this really necessary? And so you're starting to see a lot more. But the one thing that, like I said, I get really frustrated watching Janelle, because she reminds me so much of my mom. My mom put us in so many compromising situations trying to follow the leadership of her priesthood holder, which was my dad. And I see Janelle do that to her children too. And it's frustrating. She's not an advocate for her children right at this time. Now, maybe later on in episodes, she starts to become more of an advocate for her children. But in these first few episodes, I don't see that in her. And I don't see, where I do see Christine's still going to obey, but she's going to give pushback so that she can advocate for her children a little bit more is what I'm seeing. So I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? Hopefully you found any of this interesting. Let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are on these episodes. If we hit anything, or if we missed something that you saw that maybe we didn't see. You guys have been so great on the feedback already.
And a shout out to my other mom who's watching this too. Thank you for updating me. There are rules on how to live polygamy, and I'm going to read through them and see if you guys want some insight on the different rules that there are to live polygamy. She sent me some good information on that, so I appreciate that.
She's been watching some of our videos, and she says, no, there are books out there with rules on how to live polygamy, and we read through them last night. I actually have those books in my basement. So we actually read through there's 29 rules or 27
rules to live polygamy.
And we just found the short and condensed version.
Yeah.
But the books that we have go into a lot more detail. Go ahead.
Nope. She's just an amazing woman that has lived an amazing life and is a really good advocate, or she's been an awesome advocate for me, and I love her to pieces and love all my family there. So I appreciate her sending those to me.
So you will see, we're going to do a little mini series we're going to go ahead and read the rules and do a little mini series on what our interpretation of those rules are, how we've seen other people interpret those rules and live them. And as we were reading them, I'm like, oh yeah, I knew all these, but I didn't realize they were compiled into an actual formatted book. I didn't realize that, even though I have the books in my basement, I still didn't realize that that's what that was. So thank you. We appreciate the feedback on that. But yeah, leave your feedback in the comments below. If there's something, like I said, that we missed that you wanted us to talk about, we can happily do that too. And then we're going to finish up, I think, season 2 this week. Yep. So we should be done with season 2 in the next few days. And then we'll probably bump up to season 3. Everyone's obviously heard Sister Wives is coming back April 20th on Easter Sunday. So then we will pick up our normal lives and stuff that we've been doing and commentating on the rest of season 19. So thank you guys so much. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and share our channel if you're finding value in what we are sharing. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.